So unfortunately I tried to screen record my PC for this, and unfortunately it didn't catch any of the actual fucking recording, but it somehow still saved the audio. So the videos that I actually have linked on here aren't synced up perfectly well, or not even close even. And it may not even be the same video that I'm reacting to, but I put some footage up there anyways. It's just going to sound a little bit weird because I have those videos muted and the original audio playing over them. So alright fellas, so we got a pretty big fight coming up. So I thought, it's this Saturday, April 17th, so I thought why not, since I made the press conference video, go ahead and give my prediction with a little bit of footage. So here I got pulled up. I basically just searched Ben Askren versus Jake Paul training. For some people who are going to be watching this, you probably don't give a fuck about this fight or don't really know much about it. As soon as I start the video, the fucking dog starts walking around every time. And you would think she's moving around because I'm talking, but she's deaf. Jesus, every time. Never mind. Some people don't care about it, or they don't know much about it. Like, they think Jake Paul is just a YouTuber, and they haven't seen any of his fights or any of his boxing footage, and they only know who Ben Askren is because he got KO'd by Jorge Masvidal. So I'm going to show some footage here just to give you a gist of how good they look while in training, obviously. I don't know if we'll see any sparring footage. I don't know if this guy's holding mitts. So let's click on this one. I'm going to try to be super fucking dog. Please take a seat.
I am guilty as charged.
We're going to go ahead and watch this, see if we can get a good fucking gist. Sorry, I had to pause and make sure my fucking dog stops. Need to get a rug around here. So let's see this. So that's Ben Askren, the extremely unathletic looking guy. With 16 ounces, 20 ounces maybe. And if you're looking at this, you probably think, man, this guy looks like he sucks. I don't know what this music is. And it just looks not very harmonious, like his striking. And I already knew this, like none of this is a surprise. So you got a good gist of what, Ben looks like. And I'll touch on that after we watch him Jake Paul. That's Logan Paul. Man, Logan Paul looks good on the fucking pads. Let's see, where's Jake Paul? Because Jake Paul posts a lot fucking more than... Yeah, let's look at this.
Y'all may remember this clip.
Not this stupid shit.
I don't know how much you know about me, Ben.
What is happening?
Some of y'all may.
What is he? Why am I seeing Jorge? Oh, it's because he's on there.
Yes, sir.
Here we go, walking around the fucking jump rope. I've been trying to learn how to do this with the jump rope, but I can't. That's like the coolest jump rope I've ever seen. Jump roping is, if you guys are trying to look for this, dude, what the fuck? I don't want to see any of this. Here we go. There we go. He's just shadow boxing a little bit. Pads. And shot the fucking off the back as well.
Head movement coming in, baby. Remember that. Yep. Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
An uppercut. 1-2 right here. He's fast. He's strong. Pivots off the foot. I'm not really a big boxer guy. Like, obviously I'm more of like a grappler. But man, he looks good on the pads. I'm sure even to the untrained eye of people watching this who never hit pads or don't really give a fuck about it, you're looking like, wow, the man looks sharp, and then you look at Ben Askren and you're like, he looks weird. He looks like a normal dude getting like just a guy waiting in line to get a McDouble from McDonald's or wherever the hell. He just looks like a normal guy. Well, like a guy off the street who looks like his pads. And this dude hit so hard he was knocking his pads off his fucking hand. Man, so I'm going to pause right here after I give you guys a gist of this. And I'm going to go into the details. So, Ben Askren on pads looks, let's be honest, looks like shit, basically. If we're, keeping a high standard in this boxing realm for this fight. It's a high standard. Obviously, He hits pads a lot better than the average guy would, but nothing elite, obviously. And it's quite literally nothing elite. It's not like in the background he may be like a really good boxer, because he's not. And then you see Jake Paul, and he looks amazing on the pads. This is where this gets tricky. The better fighter is Ben Askren. The fighter who's going to be in better shape regardless of what he looks like on the scale is Ben Askren. The guy going in there with a hardened mentality is Ben Askren. The guy going in there with the will to win is Ben Askren. The better boxer will be Jake Paul, and I actually believe that. I think he is technically more sound. He just looks better, and it's not about how you look on the pads. And it's not even about who is better technically. It is never about that. It has never been about that in any sport. If you go back and look at Ben Askren in his wrestling days, because that's what he was, and that's what he is a wrestler. You know, he owns a bunch of wrestling academies. He was a good wrestler. He wrestled folk style. And if you go and watch his wrestling matches, and if you know anything about wrestling, he does almost... He like snatches for the fucking legs with barely any setup. No shot, no penetration, no level change. A rounded ass back. And then no one stops it though. No one can stop it, generally speaking. Like he always finishes these really weird, funky takedowns. That's why he got the nickname Funky Ben Askren. He's always looked like shit because he is he's unathletic. You know, speaking as far as like a high standard goes, he's unathletic. He's just awkward. He's got like a weird posture. Like if you ever seen him walk, he walks like this. And I always thought, you know, he walks like that just because in wrestling, you're just taught to keep your back straight. Maybe that's not it, but that's what I always thought. Because you see him like walking around in like press conferences, your back straight as shit, straight as my uncle. And yeah, you would just always think, that's what I thought at least. But his posture is just super weird. I have a friend whose posture is really weird, and we always talk about it. Like, he's not unathletic or anything. Like, he's actually rather athletic. But like, if we were like riding longboards or anything, like we would always like riff his posture. It's just weird. Like his mannerisms and posture is just super weird. And that's Ben Askren. Even though he is, make no mistake, an elite level wrestler, or was an elite level wrestler. You know, he plays 6 in the Olympics, which is nothing to fucking scoff at. Like, he's legit. Like, you can't call someone that does that unathletic. Like saying someone that steps on the Olympia stage has bad genetics. It's just, they may have had bad genetics, in, you know, contextually amongst the other elites, but generally speaking, he's athletic. He's just slow twitch and has a weird posture. And can't keep up with the other elite. He's not elite. He's just someone that is athletic and weird and just worked his ass off to be as good as the guys that were elite. And then we get to Jake Paul, who is technically and naturally a lot more gifted. I think he is better. I think he's a better boxer. But that is it. That is it. And he has size on him. He's not going to be better conditioned. He hits harder. He's not as fast. Or he is faster, rather. But that is it. And we've seen time and time again that is almost never enough. Almost never enough. The only two people that I can think of that only have decent, like, good technique, but then have intangibles like power and speed are like Deontay Wilder and fucking Francis Ngannou. And we're seeing more from Francis Ngannou as of recent. But Jake Paul has no intangible like the fucking power of Francis Ngannou. Like, technically they may be like on the similar level because Jake Paul is not a good boxer. There's not any soul that, I know I've seen Zab Judah and fucking dick riding him. It's like, no. Like, I don't care what you say. The dude's had one amateur fight and 3 professional fights against no boxers. And then he posts sparring footage with no boxers. He posts sparring footage with a fucking jiu-jitsu fighter. What was the dude's name? Absolute weirdo, even weirder than him. AJ whatever. Got absolutely fucking annihilated. And you know what you heard that entire sparring session? Just could not fucking breathe. No will to win. Tapping his fucking brains out. Again, this is probably like 3 years ago by now. But, you know, that's all he has is technique and speed and just the intangibles as far as athletically, the athletic intangibles. But he doesn't have more heart. He's not tougher. He's not, the fight IQ is nowhere near Ben Askren's. I understand he may have more tools, but the fight IQ is just, it's not there for Jake Paul. It can't be. The dude's not have many fights in the grand scheme of things. But you know, if we're looking at fights where someone has overcome the technique discrepancy, you know, I would point to like Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva. I understand that Chael Sonnen ended up losing that. Obviously, it's no, like, you know, it's not a big deal to lose to Anderson Silva, but he was dominating that fight. And he was nowhere near as good on the feet as Anderson Silva was. And yet he knocked him down on 2 occasions, I think. And almost every fucking Randy Couture fight. Especially the fights against, you know, like Chuck Liddell and maybe even Tito Ortiz. Where he's, like, technically maybe not as sound, but then absolutely dominates them in his fight against fucking Tim Sylvia. I think Tim Sylvia is like 6'11". So I would advise you not to go off people who just sit there and bang off the fucking pads. Or else almost everyone that goes to a gym and hits pads would be a world champion. You know, GSP said in an interview recently, everyone's a world champion on the pads. So obviously it means something if you're tearing up the pads, but it's all rhythm. It's all rhythm at the end of the day. You can get, you know, a good idea for speed. You can get a good idea for power and rhythm and just, you know, that harmonious, just the way people can tie combinations together. But that's about it. All it is just a controlled environment of punch throwing. That's it. So, and the sparring footage is, the dude does not spar box. He refuses to fight boxers. He wants no smoke. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's like playing cornhole and saying that the biggest cornhole, I don't even know, cornholer, I guess I would call him, calls out like the biggest basketball player, but will not challenge or go up against another cornholer. It's like, what the fuck? So you're play boxing is what he's doing. So that's the weird part about this. But honestly, man, if I had to put my life on it, man, I honestly think Ben Askren is going to win this fight. Now, it's not like I'll ever put the house on this. Like, I don't even really care that much, honestly. I certainly want Ben to win. I don't really like Jake. I think he's weird. I think he's super fucking weird. I actually like his brother more. I don't really like any of them. But at least his brother is interesting and can put a fucking sentence together. So I think Ben is going to win this fight if it goes past 4 rounds. Because honestly, you know, Jake's never even been to like a deep waters ever. And that's not like necessarily a knock. That's just something he hasn't done. Mostly because he's been so much better than everyone he's faced. But I'm going with Ben Askren by... Dog, please sit still. I'm going with Ben Askren by like late TKO. Kind of like the Conor McGregor versus Mayweather is what I'm thinking. Like Jake may not get knocked down, but he may just be like so fucking exhausted that he can't throw a punch and he's collapsing up against the ropes. Or I'm going by Ben Askren by decision. See y'all later.